Hey guys, tonight we wake beneath the towering stone walls of a medieval castle, where the first light of dawn has not yet touched the highest battlements and the world still belongs to owls, watchmen, and the occasional sleepy rooster that clearly has no respect for anyone hoping to sleep in. You are not a famous knight, not yet. Instead, you're a young squire, learning every lesson one careful day at a time. It sounds exciting until you remember that being a squire means carrying heavy equipment, cleaning muddy boots, caring for horses, and waking up long before everyone else. If you're dreaming of glorious adventures, well, you probably won't survive this. The armor alone weighs enough to make modern gym memberships seem completely unnecessary. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're settling in, leave a comment telling me your location and the local time where you're listening from. It's always wonderful to see where everyone is joining from as we travel quietly through history together. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The castle still sleeps. High above, the watchman walks slowly along the stone wall, his footsteps soft against the ancient battlements. A cool breeze drifts across the hilltop, carrying the fresh scent of damp grass from the valley below. You open your eyes. The straw mattress beneath you has never been especially soft, but after yesterday's work, it feels comfortable enough. A thick wool blanket slips from your shoulders as you sit upright, listening carefully to the peaceful sounds around you. Somewhere outside, a horse snorts quietly inside the stable. A wooden beam creaks. Far below, water trickles gently through the castle well. Everything feels calm. The room you share with several other young squires remains mostly dark. Small bundles of clothing rest beside each simple bed. Boots line the wall in uneven rows, each carrying traces of dried mud from yesterday's training. Most of the other boys are still asleep. For another minute, then the castle bell rings. One slow note, then another, not loud enough to startle, just enough to remind everyone that another day has begun. Groans quietly fill the room. Someone pulls a blanket over his head. Another sits up with sleepy eyes. You smile to yourself. No matter how many mornings pass, nobody seems to enjoy waking before sunrise. Still, duty rarely waits. You pull on your simple linen shirt. Next comes a thick wool tunic, dyed a modest shade of brown. Leather boots. A narrow belt. Nothing about your clothing suggests wealth. Squires dress for work, not ceremony. You splash cool water across your face from a wooden basin near the doorway. The cold instantly clears away the last traces of sleep. Outside, faint blue light begins appearing above the eastern hills. Morning is coming. Slowly, patiently, you step into the castle courtyard. The air feels wonderfully fresh. Stone walls rise around you, their rough gray surfaces catching only the faintest hint of dawn. Torches still flicker beside heavy wooden gates. Their flames dance gently in the breeze, though daylight will soon replace them. The castle itself seems alive in quiet ways. Kitchen servants have already begun lighting the great hearth. Thin ribbons of smoke rise from the chimneys. Somewhere nearby, a baker prepares the day's first bread. You catch the comforting scent of warm wood smoke mixed with fresh flour. It reminds you that every castle depends on far more than knights. Without bakers, no breakfast. Without blacksmiths, no horseshoes. Without stable hands, no healthy horses. Every person has a role. Yours is simply one of many. You cross the courtyard toward the stable. The large wooden doors stand slightly open. Warmth drifts out to greet you. Inside, several horses lift their heads as you enter. Some recognize your footsteps immediately. A chestnut gelding nickers softly. Another gently stamps a hoof against the straw-covered floor. The stable smells exactly as every stable has for centuries. Fresh hay, leather, clean straw, warm horses. Perhaps not everyone's favorite perfume, but somehow it feels comforting. You reach out to stroke the chestnut's neck. His ears twitch happily. He knows breakfast is coming. You laugh quietly. Horses seem remarkably good at remembering mealtimes. A stable lantern hangs from one of the heavy beams overhead, casting warm golden light across polished saddles resting neatly upon wooden racks. Everything has its place. Bridles, blankets, brushes, buckets. Order makes every morning easier. You begin carrying fresh hay from the nearby storage loft. The bundles feel lighter than they once did. Months of daily work have quietly made you stronger. Not overnight. Little by little. Just enough that today's load feels easier than last season's. The horses eat contentedly. Their steady chewing becomes another peaceful morning sound. Outside, birds finally begin greeting the sunrise. The sky slowly changes from deep blue to soft shades of silver and pale gold. Sunlight touches the highest castle tower first, then the chapel roof, then the courtyard below. The entire fortress seems to awaken one stone at a time. You pause beside the stable doorway for a moment. Below the castle walls stretches a quiet valley. Morning mist hangs gently above fields where farmers will soon begin their own work. A narrow river winds peacefully between clusters of trees. Small cottages rest quietly beside distant roads. From up here, the world appears wonderfully calm. It is easy to imagine that days like this could last forever. A familiar voice interrupts your thoughts. Admiring the sunrise? You turn. Your knight stands nearby, already dressed in a simple riding cloak. He smiles kindly. Beautiful morning. Yes, sir. It won't stay quiet for long. You nod. You already know. Soon there will be armor to polish. Weapons to inspect, lessons to learn, mistakes to make, skills to improve. That is the life of a young squire, not glorious every moment, but filled with small opportunities to grow. Your knight glances toward the brightening sky. We should begin. You follow him across the awakening courtyard, knowing that before the sun reaches its highest point, you will have learned another handful of lessons, some about horses, some about armor, and perhaps the most important ones about patience, responsibility, and earning the honor that one day, if fortune is kind, may allow you to become a knight yourself. The morning sun has only just begun climbing above the castle walls. Long golden rays stretch across the courtyard, turning the rough gray stones into shades of warm amber. The cool air still lingers, but the promise of a pleasant day is already beginning to replace the night's chill. Your knight walks steadily ahead of you. Without needing to speak, you already know where you're going. The armory. For a young squire, few responsibilities matter more than preparing a knight's equipment. Before tournaments, patrols, or even a simple ride through the countryside, every buckle, strap, and piece of armor must be inspected with care. Not because perfection is expected, because care itself is part of the lesson. The castle armory occupies a cool stone room tucked beneath one of the larger towers. Its heavy oak door creaks softly as you push it open. The familiar scent immediately greets you. Oiled leather, polished steel, old wood, a faint trace of charcoal drifting from the nearby blacksmith's forge. Rows of helmets rest neatly upon wooden shelves. Chainmail hangs from sturdy pegs like shimmering curtains made of thousands of tiny iron rings. Shields line one wall. Some display colorful family crests painted years ago. Others bear fresh coats of bright color after recent repairs. Morning sunlight slips through narrow, arrow-slit windows, creating thin beams that dance across polished steel. The entire room seems to glow quietly. Your knight removes his riding cloak. Beneath it hangs a simple padded gambeson. Comfortable, practical. Armor is rarely worn directly against the body. The thick, quilted garment protects both the knight and the expensive steel resting above it. You begin laying each piece of armor across the long wooden table. Greaves for the lower legs, vambraces for the forearms, pauldrons protecting the shoulders, gauntlets with carefully articulated fingers. The breastplate catches the morning light beautifully. It reflects tiny golden highlights across the stone walls. Heavy, solid, remarkably elegant despite its weight. You lift it carefully. Every time you do, you're reminded how much strength a knight quietly carries throughout the day. People often imagine knights charging across battlefields without effort. The truth feels far more ordinary. Armor is tiring. Horses require constant care. Equipment must always be maintained. Much of knighthood depends less on glorious moments than on steady preparation. You begin wiping each steel surface with a soft linen cloth. Tiny fingerprints disappear. Yesterday's dust fades away. The polished metal gradually reflects your face more clearly. Nearby, your knight quietly checks leather straps one by one. A cracked buckle today could become a serious problem tomorrow. Nothing is too small to inspect. You notice one leather strap beginning to dry slightly. Not damaged, just beginning to stiffen. You fetch a small pot of rendered animal fat kept beside the polishing oils. With gentle movements, you rub the leather until it becomes flexible once again. The rich brown color deepens. Satisfied, you smile. One small task completed. Another lesson quietly learned. Your knight notices. Good eye. Those two simple words bring surprising satisfaction. Praise comes rarely. When it arrives, it means something. You continue polishing the breastplate. Circular movements, slow, patient. The steel gradually shines brighter until the narrow window appears reflected across its curved surface. Outside, distant sounds drift into the armory. The rhythmic tapping of the blacksmith's hammer. Servants crossing the courtyard, carrying wooden buckets. The cheerful chatter of stable boys preparing horses for the day. Life continues beyond these thick stone walls. Inside, everything remains calm. A helmet waits nearby. You lift it carefully. Though beautifully crafted, it bears tiny scratches collected over years of service. None are deep. Most simply tell quiet stories. Perhaps one came from a tournament lance, another from brushing against a castle gate. Small marks become memories. Not every scar belongs to people. Sometimes armor remembers too. You inspect the leather lining inside. Still comfortable, still secure. Exactly as it should be. Next comes the mail coif. Thousands upon thousands of tiny iron rings woven together by patient hands, flexible enough to move naturally, strong enough to help protect the neck and shoulders. You lift it carefully. It settles into your hands with surprising weight. Each ring seems insignificant. Together they become something remarkable. Many medieval crafts follow that same quiet truth. Small pieces, patient work, strong results. The morning grows warmer. Sunlight now reaches farther into the room. Tiny specks of dust float gently through golden beams. The armory feels peaceful, almost like a workshop devoted entirely to patience. Your knight begins fitting the polished pieces together. One buckle, then another. Each strap tightened carefully. Not too loose, not too tight. Comfort matters almost as much as protection. You assist where needed, holding one piece while another is adjusted, passing the correct gauntlet, straightening a shoulder strap. These simple tasks may appear ordinary, yet every experienced knight once learned them exactly this way, one careful morning at a time. When everything has been inspected, polished, and arranged, your knight finally stands fully equipped. The armor catches the morning sunlight brilliantly, not dazzling, simply clean. Ready. He rolls one shoulder gently, then the other. Everything fits perfectly. No loose straps, no uncomfortable pressure. Exactly as intended. He removes one gauntlet and places it back upon the table. Remember, he says quietly, armor protects only the person who prepares it well. You think about those words. They seem to mean more than polished steel. Preparation protects many things. A farmer prepares fields before planting. A baker prepares dough before sunrise. A blacksmith prepares iron before shaping it. A squire prepares equipment long before anyone notices. Perhaps much of medieval life depends upon invisible work completed before the day truly begins. The thought stays with you. You return every piece not immediately needed to its proper place. Helmets aligned neatly, shields resting securely, cleaning cloth folded carefully, oil jars closed tightly. Order restored. The armory looks almost untouched. Only the brighter shine upon the armor reveals the quiet labor of the morning. Together, you and your knight step back into the lively courtyard. The castle has fully awakened now. Horses cross the yard. Kitchen servants carry baskets of fresh bread. The blacksmith's forge glows brighter with every passing hour. The day's lessons are only beginning, and somewhere beyond the stable doors, another patient teacher is already waiting. The horses. The castle courtyard is fully awake now. Morning sunlight pours over the high stone walls, filling every corner with a warm golden glow. The quiet stillness of dawn has given way to the gentle rhythm of a working castle. Servants carry baskets across the yard. The blacksmith's hammer rings steadily from his forge. Somewhere above, colorful banners flutter lazily in the light breeze. Your knight walks toward the stables. You follow a few steps behind. Although you've already fed the horses this morning, another part of your daily responsibility is only beginning. Preparing them for the day ahead. A knight may wear polished armor and carry a fine sword. But without a healthy horse, he cannot travel far. The stable doors stand wide open. Fresh air flows easily through the long timber building. Sunlight spills across the clean straw, covering the floor. The horses lift their heads as you enter. Several recognize your knight immediately. A tall gray destrier gives a deep, friendly whinny. His ears point forward with quiet excitement. You smile. Some friendships need very few words. Your knight walks directly to the great horse. "This is Rowan," he says. "You've cared for him many times, but today you'll prepare him yourself." You nod. It feels like another small step toward greater responsibility. Rowan stands patiently while you stroke his powerful neck. His coat shines softly in the morning light. Strong muscles ripple gently beneath smooth gray hair. Despite his size, his eyes remain calm and thoughtful. You begin with the curry comb. Using slow circular motions, you loosen dust hidden beneath the coat. Tiny clouds of dirt rise into the sunlight before drifting quietly to the floor. Rowan seems to enjoy the attention. His lower lip droops ever so slightly. One rear hoof relaxes. A very good sign. Next comes the stiff body brush. Long, steady strokes sweep away the loosened dust. Gray hair gradually becomes brighter, cleaner. The horse almost seems proud of his freshly brushed coat. Nearby, other stable hands work quietly with their own horses. No one rushes. Animals notice hurried movements. Calm hands usually create calm horses. You move carefully along Rowan's shoulder, then his broad back, his powerful hindquarters. Finally, each sturdy leg. Every part of the horse deserves attention. As you work, your knight watches without interrupting. Only when you finish does he quietly ask, "What are you looking for?" You think for a moment. "Cuts." He nods. "What else?" "Swelling." Another nod. "Anything unusual?" He smiles. "Exactly." Brushing is not simply about appearance. It is also an inspection. A small injury discovered early may prevent a much larger problem later. Another quiet lesson. You kneel beside Rowan's front leg. Hoof. The horse shifts his weight almost immediately. He already understands. You lift the heavy hoof carefully. A hoof pick removes small stones and pack dirt from every groove. The work requires patience. One careless movement could hurt both you and the horse. Fortunately, Rowan remains wonderfully cooperative. One hoof finished. Then another. Soon all four stand clean once more. Fresh bedding and careful grooming mean little if the hooves are neglected. Your knight often says, "A horse carries both your journey and your mistakes." The words stay with you. Next comes the saddle. You carry it from its wooden rack. Although not nearly as heavy as a full suit of armor, it still demands both hands. The leather feels smooth beneath your fingers. Yesterday evening you cleaned and oiled it carefully. This morning it looks almost new. You gently place the folded saddle blanket across Rowan's back, then lift the saddle into position, not too far forward, not too far back, just where it belongs. The familiar smell of well-oiled leather fills the stable once again. You tighten the girth strap gradually, never all at once. Most horses appreciate a little patience. Rowan certainly does. He exhales slowly. You tighten the strap one final time. Perfect. Now the bridle. You hold it carefully while Rowan lowers his head almost willingly. Months of gentle handling have built quiet trust between the two of you. The bit slips comfortably into place. The leather straps settle neatly around his ears. No pulling. No struggle. Simply cooperation. Outside, the castle gates slowly open. A pair of merchants enters with a wagon loaded with wool and barrels of salted fish. Nearby, chickens wander confidently across the courtyard, completely unconcerned by the busy people around them. A small brown dog trots happily after one of the cooks carrying scraps toward the kitchens. Castle life is full of little routines. Each one connects quietly with another. Your knight checks the saddle one final time. He places one boot into the stirrup and swings smoothly into the saddle. The movement appears effortless. Years of practice often do. He pats Rowan's neck, then looks down toward you. Walk him. You take the reins. Together you leave the stable. The morning air feels fresh against your face. You guide Rowan slowly around the courtyard. His hooves strike the ancient stone with steady rhythm. Clip, clop, clip, clop. The sound echoes softly beneath the castle towers. You pay close attention. Does he walk evenly? Does he favor one leg? Does anything seem unusual? Everything feels exactly right. After one slow circle, your knight nods with satisfaction. He's ready. You feel quietly pleased, not because someone praised you, because the horse feels comfortable. Sometimes the greatest reward comes from knowing another living creature trusts your care. Beyond the castle walls, sunlight now covers the surrounding countryside completely. Green fields shimmer gently beneath the breeze. Farmers guide oxen through rich soil. Shepherds lead flocks toward distant hills. The day stretches invitingly ahead. Your knight turns Rowan toward the castle gate. Training yard. You smile. The horses have taught today's first lesson. Soon the practice swords will begin teaching the next. The training yard lies just beyond the inner castle wall. As you follow your knight through the wide wooden gate, the sound beneath your boots changes from smooth stone to packed earth. The air carries the familiar scent of fresh-cut timber, leather, and sun-warmed grass. Ahead of you, the castle's practice grounds are already alive with quiet activity. No great battle is taking place. No dramatic tournament crowds cheer from wooden stands. Instead, you find something much more ordinary and much more important: practice. Wooden dummies stand patiently in neat rows. Archery targets line the far edge of the field. Bundles of spare practice spears rest beneath a simple shelter built from rough oak beams. Several older squires stretch their shoulders, while a group of experienced knights exchange calm conversation before beginning the morning's exercises. Everything moves with quiet purpose. No one seems eager to show off. Skill grows slowly here, not loudly. Your knight dismounts beside a wooden fence. You take Rowan's reins and lead the horse toward a shaded hitching rail. Fresh water already waits in a nearby trough. You loosen the girth slightly so the horse can rest more comfortably after the short walk. Rowan lowers his head gratefully and begins drinking. Even training begins by caring for the horse. Your knight watches with approval. A comfortable horse carries a comfortable rider. You nod. Another lesson. Simple. Easy to remember. After securing Rowan, you return to the center of the yard. Your knight hands you a wooden practice sword. It feels surprisingly solid. Lighter than a real steel blade, but heavy enough that careless movements quickly become tiring. The smooth oak handle fits comfortably in your hand. Years of use have polished it naturally. You grip it firmly, not too tightly, just enough to remain in control. Your knight notices immediately. Relax your hands. You loosen your grip ever so slightly. Good. A sword is guided. It should never be strangled. The words make you smile. You hadn't realized how tightly you were holding it. The lesson has already begun. You stand facing one another on the packed earth. Around you, other pairs of knights and squires begin their own practice. Some train with wooden staffs. Others practice shields. A few younger children simply learn how to stand properly. Everyone begins somewhere. Your knight raises his practice sword. First position. You mirror him. The blade points slightly upward. Feet shoulder-width apart. Knees relaxed. Back straight. Nothing feels dramatic. In fact, standing correctly proves harder than swinging the sword. You discover tiny muscles working to maintain balance. Your shoulders slowly settle. Your breathing becomes steady. The morning breeze brushes gently across your face. Good. Now one step. You move forward. Too far. Your knight chuckles softly. Smaller. You try again. Better. A training yard forgives mistakes. That is precisely why it exists. The first slow practice swing begins. Not powerful. Not fast. Simply controlled. The wooden sword slices gently through the air. Again and again. Each movement follows the same careful path. Your knight corrects small details. Raise your elbow. Turn your wrist. Move your feet first. Tiny adjustments slowly create smoother movements. You begin to understand that Swordsmanship is less about strength than about balance. Nearby, the castle's master-at-arms watches dozens of students at once. His calm voice carries across the yard. Slow is smooth. Smooth becomes fast. Nobody argues. Experience has already proven him right. You continue practicing. The wooden sword gradually feels less awkward. Your shoulders relax. Your feet begin moving more naturally. Without realizing it, your confidence quietly grows. A pair of older squires begin sparring nearby. Their wooden swords tap together rhythmically. Neither tries to overpower the other. Instead, each watches carefully, waiting, learning, responding. Your knight gestures toward them. See? They're thinking, not simply swinging. That may be today's most valuable lesson. Thinking comes before action. Always. You spend several minutes practicing footwork without striking at all. Forward, back, left, right, turn, pause, breathe. Again. At first, the exercise feels almost too simple. Soon, however, you notice something surprising. Good footwork makes every movement easier. Balance arrives naturally. Even holding the practice sword feels lighter. Your knight smiles. The feet carry the sword. Another sentence worth remembering. A young page hurries across the yard carrying a bucket of fresh water for everyone training beneath the growing warmth of the morning sun. You pause gratefully to take a drink. The cool water refreshes tired muscles almost immediately. Nearby, Rowan stands peacefully beneath the shade, lazily swishing his tail while watching the activity around him. He seems entirely unconcerned. Perhaps horses have watched centuries of young squires making exactly the same mistakes. Practice resumes. This time your knight introduces the wooden shield, round, solid, covered with stretched leather. It feels heavier than expected. You lift it onto your left arm. Almost instantly, you notice how its weight changes your balance. The shield protects. It also demands strength. You practice raising it, lowering it, stepping while carrying it. Nothing rushed. Everything deliberate. When your arms begin feeling tired, your knight finally lowers his own equipment. Enough for today. You blink. Already? The morning has passed far more quickly than you realized. Sweat beads lightly across your forehead. Your shoulders feel pleasantly worked, not exhausted, simply stronger than they were a few hours ago. Around the yard, other squires finish their own lessons. Some laugh quietly about harmless mistakes. Others compare bruises earned from wooden practice swords. Everyone carries home a new lesson. Not always the lesson they expected. Your knight rests one hand gently on your shoulder. You improved. Only 2 words, yet somehow they mean as much as any grand speech. Because improvement, not perfection, is the true goal of everyday's training. You return the practice sword to its wooden rack. The shield follows. Everything goes back exactly where it belongs. Order remains part of discipline. As you leave the training yard together, the castle bell rings once again. Its deep voice echoes across towers, gardens, workshops, and fields beyond the walls. Midday approaches. Soon the great hall will fill with the comforting smells of fresh bread, roasted vegetables, and warm stew. For now, however, you carry something even more satisfying. The quiet knowledge that today, you are just a little better than you were yesterday. The castle bell's final note slowly fades across the courtyard. For a brief moment, the training yard grows quiet. Wooden practice swords rest once again on their racks. Shields lean neatly against the fence, and the morning's lessons settle gently into memory. Your arms still feel pleasantly tired, not from battle, from learning. There is an important difference. Your knight smiles as the two of you walk back across the castle grounds. The body learns through repetition, he says, but character learns through ordinary moments. You think about those words while crossing the busy courtyard. Servants move carefully around one another, balancing baskets filled with vegetables gathered from the castle gardens. The rich smell of fresh bread drifts from the kitchens. Somewhere nearby, onions simmer slowly inside a great iron pot. A cook laughs with one of the scullery boys as they carry buckets of clean water toward the kitchens. The entire castle seems to know exactly where it should be. You soon reach the great hall. Even before stepping inside, you notice its enormous oak doors standing wide open. Sunlight pours through tall windows high above, illuminating colorful banners hanging from thick wooden beams. The hall feels impressive, not because it is filled with gold, because it is filled with purpose. Long wooden tables stretch nearly the entire length of the room. Simple benches stand neatly beside them. At the far end rises the high table, where the Lord, his family, honored guests, and senior knights will dine. Closer to the entrance sit soldiers, craftsmen, servants, and visitors. Everyone has a place. Different seats. The same meal. You pause for a moment to admire the room. The polished wooden floor reflects soft patches of sunlight. A massive stone fireplace dominates one wall, though today only a gentle cooking fire burns within it. The air carries comforting aromas. Fresh bread, roasted root vegetables, herbs, a rich barley stew slowly bubbling inside heavy iron cauldrons. Nothing extravagant. Simply nourishing. As a squire, your responsibilities continue even during meals. You help prepare the hall before anyone begins eating. Several other squires are already at work. One carefully arranges wooden cups. Another places freshly baked loaves into woven baskets. A third folds clean linen cloths across the high table. You immediately join them. First come the trenchers. These thick slices of day-old bread serve as plates for many diners. Carefully, you place one before each seat. The bread is firm enough to hold warm food without falling apart. Later, after the meal, the soaked trenchers may be eaten or shared with those in need. Very little goes to waste. Next come the wooden cups. You arrange each one neatly beside its place. Some are beautifully carved. Others remain plain and practical. Every cup has its own quiet history, perhaps carved by a local woodworker years ago, perhaps passed from one generation to another. Small objects often stay in a castle longer than the people using them. You straighten a linen cloth at the high table. Your knight notices. Good. Small details matter. Another lesson, not about swords, about care. The great hall slowly begins filling with people. Soldiers enter first, laughing quietly after finishing their morning duties. Craftsmen follow. The castle carpenter brushes wood shavings from his sleeves before taking his seat. The blacksmith arrives, still smelling faintly of charcoal and hot iron. A pair of monks visiting from a nearby monastery exchange peaceful greetings with everyone they meet. Conversations remain gentle, no shouting, no grand speeches. Only neighbors sharing another ordinary day. Your knight removes his gloves and sits among the other household knights. Before anyone begins eating, everyone waits. The Lord enters with his family. No trumpet sounds, no dramatic ceremony. Simply respectful silence. A brief prayer of thanks follows. Heads bow quietly throughout the hall. Then comes the welcome sound everyone has been waiting for. Please eat. Almost instantly, the room fills with the comforting sounds of a shared meal. Wooden spoons gently stir bowls of steaming stew. Fresh bread tears easily into warm pieces. Soft conversations continue from one end of the hall to the other. You help carry steaming bowls from the kitchens. The iron pot feels surprisingly heavy. Fortunately, another squire lifts the opposite side. Together, you carefully serve one table after another. The rich aroma of onions, carrots, barley, and herbs fills the hall. Simple food, honest food. Exactly what hard-working people need after a busy morning. Only after everyone has been served do you finally sit with the other squires. Your own meal waits. A bowl of warm stew. A thick slice of fresh bread. A small piece of mild cheese. Cool water poured into a wooden cup. Nothing more, nothing less. The first spoonful feels wonderfully satisfying. Perhaps because you helped prepare it. Or perhaps because honest work always improves the taste of simple food. Around you, conversations drift softly through the hall. One knight discusses repairing a damaged bridge before autumn rains arrive. Nearby, two farmers speak with the steward about storing grain for winter. An elderly mason tells a funny story about a stubborn donkey refusing to carry stone uphill. Laughter spreads gently along the table. Even your knight smiles. The castle feels less like a fortress, and more like a village gathered beneath one roof. When the meal ends, nobody rushes away. People thank the cooks. Bowls are stacked neatly. Benches slide quietly beneath the tables. You help gather the wooden cups. Another squire collects the trenchers. Others sweep away scattered crumbs. The great hall slowly returns to order, exactly as it appeared before the meal began. Only now it carries the warm memory of shared conversation. Your knight walks beside you toward the doorway. You've learned something important today. You think back over the morning: armor, horses, sword practice, meals. Which lesson does he mean? He smiles before answering your unspoken question. A knight serves before he leads. You glance back across the now quiet great hall. The cooks are already preparing for the evening meal. Servants continue their work. Nothing has truly stopped. The castle simply moves from one task to another. You begin to understand. The greatest lessons are rarely found in dramatic moments. They are quietly repeated in the ordinary rhythm of every single day. The great hall slowly grows quiet again. The last wooden cups have been stacked neatly on a side table. The benches stand pushed back beneath the long oak tables, and the comforting aroma of fresh bread and barley stew lingers gently in the warm afternoon air. Outside, the castle continues its steady rhythm. Inside, another lesson quietly waits. Your knight pauses near the doorway and gestures toward the small castle chapel. We have a little time. You follow without asking questions. The chapel is far smaller than the great hall. Its stone walls are simple. No towering banners, no crowded tables. Only rows of wooden benches polished smooth by generations of hands. Sunlight pours through narrow stained glass windows, painting gentle patches of blue, red, and gold across the stone floor. The room feels peaceful, almost untouched by the noise of the busy castle outside. A single candle burns near the altar. Its tiny flame barely moves. Your footsteps naturally become quieter, not because anyone tells you to, because the room itself seems to invite silence. Your knight removes his gloves and rests them beside a bench. He sits. You do the same. For several moments, neither of you speaks. Only the distant cooing of pigeons nesting high within the castle roof can be heard. Finally, your knight smiles. Tell me, what do you think makes someone a knight? You answer almost immediately. Courage. A good answer. What else? Skill with a sword. He nods again. Important, but incomplete. You think harder. Loyalty. Better. He folds his hands quietly. Many people believe a knight is measured by victories. He looks toward the colored light falling across the floor. I think a knight is measured by choices. The words stay with you. Choices, not trophies, not titles, not expensive armor. Simple decisions made every day. Your knight continues. A brave person can still be selfish. A strong person can still be cruel. But someone who chooses kindness when nobody is watching. He smiles gently. That is much harder. Outside, a church bell rings softly across the valley. Its quiet echo drifts through the open chapel window. You remain silent. Some lessons need time before answering. After a while, your knight stands. Come. The two of you leave the peaceful chapel and walk toward the castle gardens. Many visitors never imagine gardens inside a fortress, yet castles often depend upon them. Small plots of herbs grow neatly beside stone paths. Mint, sage, rosemary, thyme. Their fresh scents drift through the warm afternoon breeze. A gardener kneels beside a patch of lavender, carefully removing tiny weeds one by one. He smiles as you pass. Your knight greets him by name, not as a servant, as a friend. You notice. He speaks with everyone the same way. Respect never seems reserved only for important people. Another lesson quietly arrives. Near the herb garden stands an elderly woman carrying a heavy basket of freshly gathered vegetables. Without hesitation, your knight steps forward. May I help? She laughs softly. I've carried heavier. Perhaps. But you don't have to carry this one. He lifts the basket easily and walks beside her toward the kitchens. You follow. No one applauds. No grand announcement follows. The moment passes almost unnoticed, yet somehow it feels more memorable than anything practiced in the training yard. When the basket reaches its destination, the woman thanks him warmly. Your knight simply nods. It was only a few steps. She smiles. Sometimes a few steps make all the difference. You continue walking. The castle gardens give way to a narrow stone path running beside the outer wall. From here you can see much of the countryside below. Golden wheat fields sway gently beneath the afternoon breeze. A shepherd guides sheep across a distant hillside. Smoke rises peacefully from scattered cottages. Everything feels wonderfully calm. Your knight rests one hand upon the ancient stone wall. Do you know why we train? So we can fight. He smiles. If necessary. But that's not the whole answer. He points toward the valley. The best knights spend most of their lives protecting days exactly like this. You follow his gaze. Children playing near a stream. Farmers harvesting grain. Travelers crossing quiet roads. Families sharing afternoon meals. Peace. That is what the sword exists to defend, not war. The thought surprises you. Until now, becoming a knight had seemed entirely about battles and tournaments. Now it begins to look very different, more patient, more thoughtful. As you continue along the wall walk, you meet several castle workers repairing loose stones. One mason carefully chips fresh blocks into shape. Another spreads wet mortar between ancient joints. Your knight thanks them for their work. Again, he knows every name. The master mason smiles. And thank you for keeping the road safe. Everyone depends upon someone else. The castle itself quietly proves that truth every single day. No tower stands alone. No gate protects itself. No knight serves without cooks, stable hands, blacksmiths, gardeners, masons, carpenters, and countless others whose names rarely appear in songs. The afternoon sun begins sinking ever so slightly. Its golden light grows softer. Long shadows stretch across the courtyard. You realize the busiest part of the day has already passed. Yet your lessons continue, not through practice swords, not through horses, but through ordinary conversations, kind greetings, helpful hands, respect freely given. As you reach the end of the wall walk, your knight pauses once more. Remember this. People may admire your armor. They will remember your character. The words feel wonderfully simple, easy to understand, far more difficult to live. Together you begin walking back toward the castle courtyard. The afternoon breeze carries the scent of herbs, warm stone, and distant wheat fields. Somewhere nearby, the blacksmith's hammer rings again. The castle continues breathing with its familiar peaceful rhythm. And you quietly realize that today, without ever lifting a real sword, you may have learned the most important lesson of all. The afternoon sun settles comfortably above the western hills. Its bright light has softened into a gentle golden glow, wrapping the castle walls in warm color. Long shadows stretch across the courtyard, and a pleasant breeze carries the scent of wildflowers from the open countryside beyond the gate. Your knight pauses beside Rowan. The faithful gray horse has spent the afternoon resting beneath the shade, calmly chewing fresh hay, and watching the steady movement of castle life. He seems ready for another journey. Your knight tightens the saddle one final time before looking toward you. We're riding beyond the walls. Those simple words fill you with quiet excitement. Leaving the castle always feels different. Inside the walls, every path is familiar. Outside, the world grows wonderfully wide. You open the heavy wooden gate just enough for Rowan to pass through. The great oak doors groan softly on their iron hinges. Sunlight floods the road beyond. The countryside welcomes you with open fields, singing birds, and the gentle rustling of grain swaying in the afternoon breeze. You take a deep breath. The air smells different here. Fresh earth, wild grass, pine trees warming beneath the summer sun. Somewhere nearby, clover blossoms attract busy honeybees, drifting lazily from flower to flower. Your knight rides at an easy walking pace. There is no hurry. Today's ride is not about speed. It is about observation. You walk beside Rowan, one hand resting lightly on the reins. The horse seems perfectly content. His steady footsteps create a calming rhythm along the packed dirt road. Clip, clop, clip, clop. Birdsong fills the spaces between each hoofbeat. The castle slowly grows smaller behind you. Its stone towers remain visible above the trees, standing quietly over the valley like patient guardians. Ahead, the road winds gently through rolling farmland. Golden wheat fields ripple like waves beneath the afternoon breeze. Small patches of barley and oats shimmer beside them. Wooden fences divide fields cared for by generations of farming families. Everywhere you look, people are working peacefully. A farmer guides two sturdy oxen pulling a wooden plow across rich brown soil. His young daughter walks behind, scattering seeds with careful hands. She notices your knight passing. She smiles and waves. Your knight raises a hand in return. No grand salute. Just a friendly greeting. You realize something. The people along these roads know him, not because he is famous, because he visits often. A knight belongs to the land as much as the castle. Farther ahead, an old stone bridge crosses a narrow stream. The water flows slowly beneath moss-covered arches that have stood for generations. You pause for a moment while Rowan drinks from the cool, clear water. Tiny fish dart between smooth stones beneath the surface. Dragonflies skim gracefully above the stream. The peaceful scene feels almost timeless. Your knight looks toward the bridge. My father crossed this bridge, and his father before him. You glance at the worn stones. Countless travelers have passed here. Merchants, pilgrims, farmers, children, messengers, knights. Every journey leaves invisible memories behind. You continue along the winding road. The countryside grows quieter. Tall oak trees cast broad patches of cool shade across the path. Squirrels race along sturdy branches overhead. A pair of rabbits disappear quickly into tall grass as Rowan approaches. Even the horse seems to slow slightly beneath the shelter of the trees. The afternoon feels wonderfully peaceful. Soon you hear another familiar sound. Sheep. A large flock grazes peacefully across a nearby hillside. An elderly shepherd leans comfortably against his wooden staff, while two faithful sheepdogs patiently watch over the animals. Your knight guides Rowan toward him. The shepherd smiles warmly. Good afternoon. And to you. The conversation feels simple. They discuss the weather, the health of the sheep, whether enough rain has fallen this season. Nothing dramatic. Just neighbors sharing ordinary concerns. Before leaving, your knight thanks the shepherd for keeping watch over the northern fields. The shepherd simply nods. And thank you for watching the roads. Again, you notice how respect moves both ways. No one speaks as though one person's work matters more than another's. The road climbs gently toward a low hill. From the top, you stop to admire the view. The castle rises proudly in the distance. Its towers catch the warm afternoon sunlight. Below, fields stretch across the valley in beautiful shades of green and gold. Thin ribbons of smoke drift lazily upward from scattered cottages. A watermill slowly turns beside the river. Its large wooden wheel creaks softly as flowing water powers the millstones inside. The entire valley seems to breathe peacefully together. Your knight removes one glove and points across the landscape. This, he says quietly, is why we serve, not the castle alone. Not only the Lord, but every family living within these fields. Every child, every traveler, every craftsman, every farmer. Looking across the valley, you begin to understand. Knighthood is not simply about protecting walls of stone. It is about protecting the people whose lives unfold beyond them. A gentle breeze stirs the tall grass around your boots. Clouds drift slowly across the bright blue sky. Time itself seems to slow. For several peaceful minutes, neither of you speaks. Sometimes silence teaches as well as words. Eventually, your knight turns Rowan toward the road once more. The village isn't far. You smile. Another part of the journey waits just ahead. And somewhere beyond the next gentle bend in the road, new faces, quiet conversations, and another ordinary lesson are waiting to welcome you. The winding country road gradually bends toward a small village nestled between gentle hills. From a distance, it looks almost like part of the landscape itself. Thatched roofs blend naturally with the golden fields, while thin curls of smoke drift peacefully from stone chimneys into the soft afternoon sky. As you walk beside Rowan, the sounds of the countryside slowly change. The quiet whisper of wheat gives way to cheerful village life. Children laugh somewhere beyond a wooden fence. A blacksmith's hammer rings steadily in the distance. A flock of geese waddles confidently across the road, completely ignoring everyone else. Rowan wisely slows his pace. Even noble warhorses know better than to argue with determined geese. Your knight chuckles softly. There are few creatures more confident than village geese. You cannot help smiling. Some lessons history never changes. The first cottages come into view. Each one has thick stone walls supporting a roof of tightly packed straw. Small vegetable gardens grow beside nearly every doorway. Beans climb simple wooden poles. Cabbages form neat green rows. Bright marigolds bloom among the herbs, adding cheerful splashes of yellow and orange. Life here feels wonderfully peaceful. Several villagers pause from their work as your knight approaches, not with fear, with familiarity. An elderly carpenter waves from beneath an open workshop. A young mother carrying a basket of apples smiles warmly. Two boys stop carving small wooden toy horses and stare with wide, curious eyes at Rowan. The great horse lowers his head politely toward them. One brave boy reaches out. Your knight nods. Gently, small fingers stroke Rowan's nose. The horse remains perfectly still. The children's faces brighten instantly. You realize that strength often appears gentlest when it is most carefully controlled. Your knight quietly explains, "A well-trained horse protects others by remaining calm." The words settle comfortably in your thoughts. Soon you arrive at the village square. It is modest. No grand fountains, no towering buildings. Just a broad open space, surrounded by workshops, cottages, and a tiny marketplace where neighbors exchange goods more often than coins. A baker places fresh loaves upon a wooden table. Their warm aroma fills the afternoon air. Nearby, a potter arranges newly fired clay bowls beside colorful jugs. Bundles of onions, carrots, herbs, and fresh eggs sit neatly in woven baskets. Everything feels honest, simple, busy without ever becoming hurried. Your knight dismounts beside the village well. You take Rowan's reins, while he greets several familiar faces. Each conversation is short, natural. He asks after a sick grandmother, congratulates one family on a healthy newborn calf, thanks another villager for repairing part of the northern fence. No official announcements, no speeches, just neighbors helping neighbors. You begin to understand that service often looks very ordinary. An elderly woman approaches carrying two heavy water buckets suspended from a wooden yoke across her shoulders. Without hesitation, you step forward. "May I carry one?" She smiles kindly. "I think your knight has been teaching you." You lift one bucket carefully. It feels heavier than expected. The water gently splashes against the wooden sides as the two of you walk together toward her cottage. The journey lasts less than a minute, yet she thanks you as though you have done something remarkable. Kindness rarely measures itself by distance. Back in the village square, your knight waits patiently beside Rowan. He says nothing. He simply smiles. Little farther along the road stands the village blacksmith. Unlike the large castle forge, this workshop feels smaller and more personal. A glowing fire burns inside a sturdy stone hearth. The blacksmith shapes a glowing horseshoe, while his young apprentice pumps the bellows steadily. Tiny sparks leap into the air like golden fireflies. Some lessons require no explanation. You watch with quiet fascination. Each hammer strike seems both powerful and gentle, not rushed, never wasted. The blacksmith notices your interest. He lifts the finished horseshoe proudly. This one should keep a traveler safe for many miles. Your knight nods respectfully. And without craftsmen like you, our journeys would end very quickly. The blacksmith laughs. "I'll leave the adventures to you." You smile. Again, every trade supports another. Nearby, the village miller waves from beside a small watermill, where flour drifts softly through open windows. Freshly ground grain fills the air with its warm, earthy scent. A pair of women carry sacks of flour toward the baker's shop. Soon those same sacks will become tomorrow's bread. Every task connects to another. Every person contributes something valuable. The afternoon continues peacefully. You help a merchant lift a crate onto his cart. You return a runaway chicken to its owner after an amusing little chase that ends with far more laughter than success. Even Rowan seems entertained. watching quietly while the determined bird repeatedly escapes before finally allowing itself to be caught. Your knight laughs openly this time. Not every victory requires a sword. Perhaps chasing chickens deserves its own kind of bravery. As the sun begins drifting lower, long shadows stretch across the village square. The marketplace slowly grows quieter. Families begin returning home. Children wave goodbye as your knight prepares to leave. One little girl hands you a single wildflower for your journey. You thank her warmly and tuck the flower carefully beneath your belt. A tiny gift, yet somehow impossible to forget. Your knight mounts Rowan once again. Before leaving, he looks around the peaceful village. Remember these faces. Their wide castles stand. You glance back one last time. Smoke curls gently above the cottages. The baker closes his shutters. The blacksmith sweeps the last sparks from his doorway. The children continue playing near the village well. Everything feels wonderfully ordinary. And perhaps that ordinary peace is the greatest treasure a knight can ever hope to protect. The road home now waits beneath the warm glow of the slowly descending sun.